Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today about how you can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of college football recruiting by leveraging analytics. I'm Diane Bloodworth. I'm the CEO and founder of ScoutSmart, and we provide predictive analytics. We predict the fit of a recruit for a college football team. So today's webinar is going to be fairly brief. It's 30 minutes max. We're going to keep it short, but we'd love to answer any questions that you all have. So you will see a Q&A window at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see that, if you can raise your hand or send me something in the chat to let me know that you're having any issues, but you should be able to go in and enter questions into the Q&A window, and we'd love to have those. So before I can really talk about how analytics can help recruiting, I think it's important to talk about some of the challenges that coaches and football programs face today. We're seeing several trends that are making it even more difficult for coaches and recruiting coordinators to find recruits that will fit and stay in their program. 2020 was an anomaly with the pandemic in terms of recruiting costs, but if you look at 2019, for the Power 5 schools, they spent more than $56 million in recruiting. And where I attended college, University of Georgia, they spent over $3 million. And I really don't think that these continued increases in recruiting, even for the Power 5, are sustainable. And certainly for the non-Power 5 schools, they aren't sustainable. We need to find a way that recruiting can be improved without necessarily increasing the recruiting cost. We have also seen a shift to the athlete empowerment. Student athletes have found their voice. I think that's a very positive thing, but it's certainly something that has to be taken into consideration when you are recruiting. They are looking at different things when they are looking at the college of their choice. Name, image, and likeness is a huge impact to recruiting and that shift to athlete empowerment. And then, of course, there is the transfer portal and the fact that it's a little easier to transfer schools than it used to be. So that where we say we want recruits to fit and stay, that stay portion has become more of a challenge. And because of the pandemic, there's even relaxed restrictions right now on transfers. I believe this year there's a one-time transfer without question. So again, we're seeing some trends. These are making it more challenged. So now I'm going to kind of shift gears and talk about how analytics might be able to provide some insights into coaches, into these programs to find the right recruits. Well, needless to say, we believe this. I'm kind of betting my business model on it, right? That we believe these analytics can provide these insights to make better decisions. You know, one of the questions I ask is, will analytics become as valuable in the recruiting process as video? Video, looking at the huddle video has become just a way of doing recruiting for the coaches. They have to have it. I know we've added it. We've got 92,000 video links in ScoutSmart because the coaches said, you've got to have that there for us to use your platform. So I believe that. And while I wasn't part of the recruiting process when Huddle launched, my understanding is that Huddle put the video in the hands of the coaches. They put it out there so it was easily accessible, it was easy to use, and the coaches really adopted it and began to use it. Now, Huddle Video, what it did was really improve the efficiency of how many recruits they could look at and expand the reaches of the coaches. They were no longer limited to just going out and talking to the high school coaches that they'd built relationships with. Now, high school coaches are still extremely important in the recruiting process. The coaches still want to talk to them about their players, and we work hard to develop relationships with those high school coaches. But huddle video or video in general really became a way for these coaches to do business. Now we're looking at analytics. And there really isn't a lack of data. There's almost an overwhelming amount of data. You know, I had a recruiting coordinator from one of the Ivy League schools say to me, it's not that we don't have enough data. We have every kid with a huddle video link sending us their link. And to be able to filter through all that data is our challenge. And that's where analytics really help the coaches to really filter in and focus in on those insights that are going to help them. Now, you may ask this question. It's a question I've been asking. You know, why haven't football coaches adopted recruiting analytics quicker, sooner? Why is it taking some time? And you know what I say? Change is hard, y'all. Change is hard. So in order for us to change our process or change the way we're going to do something, there has to be a true reward for that. And you also have to make it easy. I know when I'm trying out a new app, if it isn't easy, I'm like, I don't have time to mess with that. You know, we're not always going to take the time to learn something new, nor can we assume that coaches are going to become analytics experts, because they're not. So what we need to be able to do to improve adoption and really make this valuable is embed these analytics in the way that coaches do their process, use their recruiting process and their daily activities. We also need to, of course, make it simple, and the technology has matured so that we can do more of that. We can make it easier for these coaches to actually leverage analytics, sometimes without even realizing it's analytics. To them, it's just kind of validating their intuition, some data points that validate their intuition. So again, to get better adoption, we need to make sure that we make the technology almost as a way of doing business for the coach. You know, we listen to a lot of coaches at Scout Smart, and one of the things we learned is it needs to be customizable. There's a lot of different recruiting processes out there. Even at the same level of play, definitely different at different levels of play, but certainly there's a lot of different recruiting processes, even within the same, you know, Power 5 or D2, D3, it doesn't matter. They each have their own uniqueness. So the platform needs to be customizable so that if academics are really important to me, I can find recruits, or if having an offensive lineman that is at least 6'3" is important to me, I can find those recruits as well. And so that's one of the things that we have tried to make sure Scout Smart has, is that ability to slice and dice that data and really get those athlete insights as needed. You know, the other thing we've learned is, you know, stats, high school stats, you know, the coach may or may not put a lot of value in those, but there are some insights that can be developed. And we developed, for example, a disruptor score. So this is the percentage of plays that a defensive player disrupts the offense. And, you know, it could be a PBU, a tackle for a loss, a sack, a hurry. And so it gives the coaches, again, some insight and indicator to see that this player has, you know, he's in the top 10% of disruptive high school players. Again, it's just a way to have more data to make better decisions. So let me talk a little bit about the cost savings, because we've mentioned, you know, effectiveness and efficiency. How can we save costs? And quite honestly, we're still in the early days, and this will mature, and maybe we'll have a webinar 2.0 sometime in the near future where we have even more examples of cost savings. But I kind of grouped them into two major ways that a program could save costs. One is a reduction in personnel, or it may not be less personnel. It may be having those folks focus on tasks that have higher impact. But either way, there could be a reallocation of personnel. And some of the things where there could be savings is gathering and compiling data. We know how hard it is. We have 75,000 recruits in our database, and it's a daily grind to try to get the most up-to-date, validated information about those recruits. Another activity is identifying and filtering the recruits, using analytics to identify and filter recruits so you can focus more efficiently on those right recruits. I know a lot of organizations have people that sit and watch video all day long, every day, and we know that's not going away. We know that's part of the eval process, but you might be able to narrow that focus more and not watch not look as quite as many athletes. And then, of course, there's gaining consensus and deciding who to offer, taking a look at your recruit board and really making a little more data-driven decisions about those recruits. And that could take less time. And of course, making a better decision that doesn't reduce costs, but that sure does help in terms of effectiveness and winning. The other bucket is travel. And so I think we've seen during the pandemic, I know everyone's very excited for June 1st for the D1 programs to be able to have camps and to have visits and for things to change. Nothing replaces in-person interaction, nothing. But I think we have learned that maybe there's less travel than is needed, and there might be some ways to really expand our reach while reducing travel. And of course, winning is priceless, right? So just to kind of sum up, this is my one, a little bit about ScoutSmart is just to say, we really provide analytics to help identify, evaluate, and compare recruits to make the best recruiting decisions. And we work with the existing tools that a program has. So let me move on into the Q&A session based on kind of some of the things I provided. And I did have, one question that comes to me a lot, which is how does the pandemic, or how did the pandemic impact, technology and adoption of technology? And in fact, we did a webinar panel last summer about, how programs were using more technology, whether it's a Zoom call like what we're on today, or whether it's some other way to connect or analyze recruits. The pandemic has forced us to adopt and use more technology. As I've said, it's not going to take the place of that in person. We all have missed that and want that, but there might be more of a balance of using technology. One of the other questions I see in the Q&A is a little bit about how is ScoutSmart different from other recruiting tools like Tracking Football. Tracking Football, they have an analytics platform as well. It's focused more on actually looking at the track and field capabilities of that athlete and how those really impact or predict a football player's performance. So it's somewhat specific to that. We have a broader platform where we're looking at academics, stats, a skills eval, and we're also looking at character too. So, I think long term, coaches are going to not want to have 10 platforms. They're going to want to have 1 or 2 platforms, and that will probably see some consolidation in bringing together these different platforms. Another one we hear about is Zcruit, and Zcruit looks at the social media analysis to see whether they really are going to be a match, a fit for your program. So a lot of interesting things going on with analytics. And as I said, I think we'll probably start to see, a little bit more consolidation just to make it easier for the users, for the coaches. As I said, for adoption, that's going to have to happen. One of the other questions that I see here are, what are some of the trends that have impacted the use of analytics? And one of the things that I will say that has helped in that respect is the data science, the wearables, and starting to track performance and sleep and those types of things, because the coaches have started to see the data and see the benefits of the data. And so that has kind of paved the way for the use of analytics. We're also seeing it more in game planning. And we really believe that recruiting, there's a huge opportunity there, just given the massive amount of data. So are there other questions? We had planned to have plenty of time today for Q&A. So, you know, please put your questions in the Q&A. I'll mention one other thing that we've been looking at that might be of interest to some of the folks on the webinar is predicting the level of play. We do have an algorithm because there are so many recruits. We would like for the coach to be able to kind of focus in on those recruits that are going to be interested in their program. You know, if I'm a Power 5 coach, I really want to make sure I'm going after just those Power 5 kids. And if I'm a Division II coach, I'm not going after Power 5 kids because they're probably not going to be interested in me. So that's kind of the balance of, you know, helping improve that. Any other questions? Bring on your questions, feedback. Love to hear from you. I don't see anything else. So if there's nothing else, I will let you guys get on with your work day. And thank you again for participating in today's webinar.